Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of 365 Days of Gaming. Really appreciate you taking time to check out this video. Do what the thing says on the screen. Greatly appreciate it, so thank you in advance. All right, dudes. We got to talk about a tactical RPG because we got like a dozen of those to cover and we haven't really put the work in just yet. So I want to tell you about a game that was so good that it made my friend who let me borrow the game take it back. This is Disgaea, Hour of Darkness. Now, if you are familiar with the Disgaea series, you understand that these are some of the best tactical RPGs for a multitude of reasons. You know, story-wise, character design-wise, battle system, depth of battle system, depth of items, like so many things that this game does so well that my friend Ronnie, my good friend, we were in high school. He's like, yo, I got this game. I'm telling you, you got to play it. You're going to love it. Like, it's just amazing. And I'm like, oh, okay, bet. You know, I'm down with that. And he's like, yeah, it's a tactical RPG. And, you know, he's like telling me everything about it. So I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to play it. So he lets me borrow it. I start playing it. Love it, of course, because, you know, it's a great game. You play as Laharo, the Prince of Darkness, and your father has died and you need to take over. And in this version of the Netherworld or the other world, or however you want to describe it, it's like all of these different beings are vying for power, and at one point your father was king, so now you're in line, but you're sort of a knucklehead and you're headstrong. It's got a very anime feel to it. They do a lot of parody things, like there's a group of Power Rangers that are called the Prism Rangers, which you can eventually recruit to your team. Like pretty much every area set up as an episode, and they have different story lines that are going on. It's just a really, really good game. So I'm telling him, like, he's like, yeah, what part you at? You know, what you think about it so far? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this. I did this part. This was really cool. Exploring like Item World, you know, it was really fun, or the Geospheres and all of this. And he's like, I need you to bring it back. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. I'm hearing you talk about it. Makes me want to play it again. So I need it back. And I was like, oh, word, understandable. I get it, you know. But eventually, you know, as you keep leveling up, you start to see that there's a lot going on, you know, outside of what you thought was going on in this demon world. And, you know, the character developments are in some cases very like obvious and very cheesy and corny and kind of like par for the course. But a lot of it, especially at the time, was very, very different, very new, very fresh, very creative. Like the Prinnies, for example, who are like penguins with knives, and they always say dude, and they're kind of dumb, but they're kind of not. They're like slaves to whoever buys them. And if you throw them, they explode. Like they're just these really, really different type of henchmen. And this is way before like the minions and all that stuff. So, you know, the Prinnies were the trendsetter in the minion category. But then like all the classes that you have access to, like you start the game, they give you a few classes to start. As you level those classes up, they create other classes that are kind of hybrids or some offshoots of that particular class. You know, you go from mages to sorcerers, you go from, you know, there's like levels to each of the classes in themselves. So there's like the base version of the martial artist, but then if you keep playing with that class and reincarnating that class and getting it to certain levels, which I believe the max level is 9,999 if I'm not mistaken, which you can technically do. It's not necessary, but if you want to, you certainly can. You can, you know, be leveled up way past whatever you think you may need to be. But that's just like, you know, how much this game has to offer. And this is before, you know, this is one of the first games, this is the first game from Nippon Ichi Software, or NIS, that I played. And then they basically, for me, became the new working design. So if there's an RPG of any kind and I see their name as the publisher of it, I'm more likely to give it a shot just off the strength of that. Like just any game with that NIS, because if nothing else, they have at least a standard that all of these games seem to meet. The Disgaea series kind of launches a bunch of other games. Obviously still have the mainline series, but then we have stuff like La Pucelle Tactics and things like that. So there's a bunch of offshoot games that come from what started with this particular game. And, now the series is getting much more popular. I think number 7's gonna come out, and, I guess when this video comes out, it'll be like a year from now, maybe longer. But this game was like kind of the reaffirmation for me that, like, all right, tactical RPGs aren't going anywhere, because we had a bunch of those during, like, for me, like the PlayStation era, and then it was kind of quiet because only thing we would get as far as RPGs, especially over here, was, the big names, the Final Fantasy, the Tales games, which are great games, but I do find myself always wanting a tactical RPG, and we don't always get a lot of different ones, but this series was definitely a breath of fresh air. So if you are familiar with this series, I'd like to know your thoughts on it. If you have a favorite entry into the series, or in this one in particular, let me know. And Ronnie, if you watch this, no hard feelings, brother. I get it. Game's real good. I'd want to play it again too. But either way, I appreciate you letting me reminisce with you. Y'all have fun. Y'all be safe. Peace.